We will begin the public hearings in just a moment after we take a moment to take care of some housekeeping business, namely adoption of the minutes from our previous meeting. In the interest of time, I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as circulated. Is there a second? Discussion? All in favor, please say aye. 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 Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions?
Abstain.
So noted. Minutes of the February 22nd meeting are approved. Thank you. We have a series of public hearings this evening, and for those who are unfamiliar with our process, as each application is announced by a member of the staff, we would ask the applicant or their representative to come to the podium, provide your name and address for the record, as well as a brief description of the project. Following questions and points of clarification by the commission members, we will invite those in attendance who wish to speak in favor of the application to come forward to do so. And when those folks are finished, we will then invite those who wish to speak in opposition to the application to come forward to do that. Where comments are made in opposition, we will encourage the applicant to return to the podium and address those questions made in opposition. So with that, I think we are ready for our first public hearing of the evening, which is actually a continuation from last meeting.
The first public hearing is PR 2125. This is a continuation from February 22nd, and this is a project site review for new construction to construct a two-story mixed-use building at 112 to 114 Burt Street. 15th Ward Developers LLC is the owner and applicant. Property lies within a business class A zoning district.
Thank you. If the applicant is here, please come to the podium. Oh, perhaps the applicant is not here. So we will continue to hold the hearing open. However, if there is anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the application, we invite you to do so now without the benefit of the presentation, but you may have read the background materials. So if there's anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application, please come forward to do so. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? If so, come to the podium, provide your name, address, and your comments. Okay, we're 0 for 3 here. We will continue to hold the hearing open. The applicant and others may appear before this meeting of the commission is over this evening. If so, we'll re-invite the applicant to make the presentation on their proposal, and we will reissue an invitation to those who wish to speak either for or against the application. So that hearing remains open, and we can move to our second hearing.
Second public hearing is R2205. This is a re-subdivision to combine 3 properties into 2 new lots at 201, 207, and 211 Coral Avenue. Brandon Williams, Jackie Harris, and the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation are the owners and applicants, and the properties lie within a residential class A1 zoning district.
Sorry, I was used to the microphone being over there. Good evening.
He switched it all around tonight,
It's so confusing,
just like daylight saving time.
which is the worst, by the way. I hate that. Good evening. I'm Andrea Wandersee. I'm the executive director of NEDA. We work with the land bank on their re-subdivisions for their vacant lots. Coral Avenue, we're talking about the re-subdivision of 201, 207, and 211 Coral Avenue. The land bank acquired the vacant lot at 207 Coral Avenue in December of 2016. The vacant lot measures 42 feet by 100 square feet. Given the width of the lot, it is unlikely that any other developer will build there. The owner occupant of 201 Coral Avenue has a house that sits 3 feet from the property line which doesn't provide him much room to access the eastern side of his house. He would like to purchase half of the lot for additional yard space. The applicant, who owns the single-family house to the south at 211 Coral Avenue, would like to purchase the other half of the lot for improvements to her property. The land bank would like to re-subdivide these 3 parcels into 2 improved lots. Splitting the vacant lot and merging the parcels will ensure that the property owners will receive 1 tax bill and that the vacant lot does not become orphaned again at a later date. It will make the process of applying for future driveway and fence permits easier, and we believe that this is in the best interest of the neighborhood and the city. There are a few more justification notes, including the fact that because of the width of this lot, Home Headquarters did not select it as an option for building some of their new single-family homes. There were some, we're looking at wider lot spaces. If the re-subdivision is approved, 201 Coral Avenue will be 63 feet wide and 211 will be 97 feet wide. It's not out of character for the neighborhood. The original patterns of the street has already been disrupted with numerous demolitions, and there are several similarly sized lots on the street. I have a list of them. If you need me to go over those, I'm happy to. I do want to note that the land bank has removed the driveway as noted on the site map, and they will be removing the 2-track dirt driveway.
Thank you. Any questions from commission members for the applicant? Okay, thanks. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come to the podium. So we have no additional speakers. We will close this public hearing and entertain a motion for this proposed re-subdivision.
Move for approval with a negative declaration.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The re-subdivision is approved. Thank you. Our next application?
The next public hearing is R-2207, a re-subdivision to combine 2 properties situated at 217 and 219 Kellogg Street into 1 new lot. Louis Marrero and the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation are the owners and the applicants, and the properties lie within a residential Class AA zoning district.
You get me a couple times tonight. I'm Andrea. Oh, excuse me. I'm the executive director of NEDA. I neglected to say we're located at 101 Gertrude Street. Oh, I thought that was me. It's not me. For the re-subdivision of 217 and 219 Kellogg Street, the land bank acquired the vacant lot at 217 Kellogg Street in March of 2016. The vacant lot measures 50 by 132 feet, and it's an unlikely site for new construction. The applicant owns the 2-family property at 219 Kellogg Street, which he operates as a rental. The owner of 215 Kellogg Street did not respond to the offer. This plot has been the site of illegal dumping since 2016, and the applicant would like to curtail these activities. Merging the parcels will ensure that the property owner will receive 1 tax bill and that the vacant lot does not become orphaned again at a later date. Merging the 2 lots provides the homeowner with the opportunity to add additional parking space for his tenants and to bring his property into conformance with the zoning ordinance. It will make the process of applying for future driveway and fence permits easier, and we believe that this is in the best interest of the neighborhood and the city.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant? I have one question on this application. The, what's the name of the form?
Seeker form.
Indicated that the individual wants to use the property for additional yard space and eventually install fencing. Do you have a sense of what time frame we're talking about with eventually?
I do not personally have a sense of what that time frame is, to be honest with you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? Please come to the podium. Are there any individuals who would like to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come forward. No further speakers for this application. We will close this public hearing and also entertain a motion for its disposition.
Move to approve the negative declaration.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The re-subdivision is approved. Our next public hearing, please.
The next public hearing is R2210. This is also a re-subdivision. This is to combine two properties into one new lot at 155 and 157 Vale Street. Robert J. Leonard III and the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation are the owners and applicants, and both properties lie within a residential Class A1 zoning district.
And I'm Andrea Wandersee, the Executive Director of NEDA, 101 Gertrude Street. For the re-subdivision of 155 and 157 Vale Street, in March of 2021, the land bank acquired the vacant lot at 157 Vale Street. The lot measures 33 feet by 132 feet, and it does not meet the dimensional requirements for new residential construction due to its small frontage. The applicant owns the two-family property at 155 Vale Street and is in the process of renovating it as his personal single-family residence. The adjacent neighbor at 159 Vale Street declined the land bank's offer to purchase the lot. Merging the parcels will ensure that the property owner will receive one tax bill and the vacant lot does not become orphaned again at a later date. It will make the process of applying for a future driveway and fence permits easier, and we believe it's in the best interests of the neighborhood and the city.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant on the Yale Street re-subdivision? Vale Street, rather.
I'm all set.
Okay, thank you.
And just to address your earlier question about the fence at the last property, Terry's note doesn't say eventually, it says he's planning to do a fence, so it sounds more current.
Or imminent.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application, this proposed re-subdivision? If so, come to the podium to provide your comments. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come forward. No further speakers here. We will close the public hearing and entertain a motion for action on the re-subdivision on Vale Street.
Move approval with a negative declaration.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The Vale Street re-subdivision is approved. Thank you.
The next public hearing is SP 2202. This is a special permit for a parking lot at 604 to 612, 616, 618 to 32 Montgomery Street, and 249 to 255 East Adams Street. Syracuse Parking Associates LLC are the owners and applicants, and all the properties lie within the Central Business District Office and Service Restricted Zoning District.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Steve Etoll, spelled E-T-O-L-L. I'm an attorney with Hancock Estabrook, 1800 Equitable Towers, Syracuse 13202.
I'm Martin McDermott. I'm representing the property owner Syracuse Parking Associates LLC and 224 Harrison Associates LLC. Both of their addresses is 2 Clinton Square, Suite 120, Syracuse, New York 13202.
Great, thank you. Please proceed.
I just read it. I would just read the application. Yeah. All right. That's all right, that's all right. The application that's before you is for installation of a security fence around an existing parking lot, 6 foot tall, and to provide security for a tenant that is requiring that this additional security measure be installed. Pretty simple.
Thank you. Are there questions from the commission members concerning the application?
I take it you've had a chance to look at the comments from various city staff members regarding what is generally perceived by many of them to be an inappropriate fence selection?
We have, Marty, do you have any?
The fence was selected as part of the lease with the Veteran Affairs Administration. At the time in the lease, they were looking for what was called a 6 foot perimeter fence of galvanized chain link fence. So that's why we put forth the application. We did see the comments, but right now we're looking for your comments on that, and I can bring back that to get both the input from the tenant and the property owner in regards to what resolution you would be looking for.
And we do have a letter here from the VA in support of the application, and in particular, the need for the 6 foot fence. I don't think they view a 4 foot fence as providing the appropriate security. And you should understand too that there's 300 people a day that park in that parking lot, so there's a significant number of employees and veterans that are down there every day.
What's the volume? I didn't hear.
300.
300.
300.
What's the rationale for a 6 foot high fence?
So
Central Business District.
So there are incidences that have occurred since they took, the lease started in December 1st of last year, with employees' cars being broken into and vandalized, and also other security issues of concern with people walking through the property with no fencing at all. They would like to be able to restrict the access to the 4 entry points of the where cars can come and go. There's gates so cars can come through. There is a guard that the VA supplies that it oversees 3 of the gates, so it would be restricted, and you'd have better oversight about who may be walking in that doesn't belong, and not just some random person being able to come in at any point. It was their concern and their requirement as part of the lease. Their previous parking lot that had this was located on South Cortlandt Street, not too far away. It did have a fence as well. And then when they relocated here, because they were being pushed out of that site and they needed a proximity to the VA center, they chose this site for that, but they also had to address their security concerns.
Data that backs up.
All we have is in the letter, they reference the issues that have come up since December 1st of last year.
We don't have that, right?
We do. We have a letter here that we can provide to you. It was for support of, they couldn't have a person here tonight, but they wrote a letter of support.
Is the data enumerated? Is it anecdotal?
Well, it's based upon, this is from Jonathan Atkin, who is the regional, I'm not sure his exact title. He's based out of Buffalo, but he oversees the Syracuse market. From underneath Jonathan, there's the Syracuse office reports to him, and they have put forth to him that these issues have occurred. I'm sure there's data within their system that could be produced that cars were vandalized, but we don't have that with us tonight. We just had a tenant that required a fence, has expressed actual incidences that have occurred, and we're just trying to provide that portion of the lease that they so they need.
You considered any alternatives, or was the chain link fence the first option considered?
So again, there were no specific alternatives considered. A chain link fence was just, was one that was put forth, so we would put it forth. Obviously, there's alternatives out there that were recommended. Some of them, such as a 4-foot fence, we don't feel would provide a level of security. That's a fence that could be easily hopped over and both to and fro and wouldn't provide the level of security. So we think 6 foot is something that would provide that sense of security. The actual material is certainly something that's open for debate. We can certainly bring that back and see if we can get the landlord as well as the tenant to agree. I don't think the tenant has any issue with the type of fence. They just want the fence.
Their focus is primarily on the security matter.
That is correct.
Okay. Additional questions for the applicants?
Yes, it'd be helpful if there's a requirement, if it's a contract with a federal entity, if there's any requirement that they're specifically asking for a certain kind of fence, that goes into our city requirement about the materials that are appropriate. I think the whole town wants to be fair about that. If there's something specific about the request of the tenant, that they put that in writing for us. Because then, as the staff will tell you, that there's certain materials that we prefer to be used, and since it's a 966 foot area, that's going to be visible, for quite some time.
I think it's relatively incongruous with the community's current and long-range plans for downtown revitalization to take an entire city block and put a 6-foot high chain link fence around it. The height and the materials are more indicative of an industrial area and a commercial area, not a mixed-use, vibrant downtown. And while I appreciate an interest in providing security, I am confident that there are ways that can be achieved other than with this particular approach. So at a minimum, in addition to what Walter is saying, if there is some kind of regulatory requirement by a federal agency, we should see that. But assuming that doesn't exist, it would seem to me that the applicant needs to rethink this approach.
Well, to your point, and we have pictures here of what actually does surround the site. On one side of it, it's the back end of a parking garage, and then on the other side, it's basically a loading dock. And then there's East Adams, of course. So I appreciate what you were saying, but I don't know if this area is necessarily like this vibrant walking community. So,
Well, there's also a school across the street, which doesn't send.
so East
a great-
Adams might be different.
Right, so it doesn't send a great signal. And again, if the idea is to revitalize, the visual cue is, this is a dangerous and unsafe place. So we're not doing anything to import, again, the community's general goals with the revitalization of downtown. As I said, I appreciate the security concerns, but there are all kinds of fencing materials out there and methods of design that would not necessarily result in this particular aesthetic. So in my mind, the applicant should rethink their approach to this particular issue.
And the county planning board also recommended alternatives. I hope that you got that.
We did.
Okay, which could include vegetative screening as well.
Yeah, the city's transportation planner said the same, that if there was a buffer on the inside of the lot in combination with a planting buffer, in combination with a different type of fence material, but also in terms of height, you might be able to achieve the same level of security. But I think as presented, this is contrary to general planning efforts that the community has been undertaking with regard to downtown.
So I can't speak for the owner, but with respect to the material, we will discuss that and also have to go to the VA. But the second issue we had was the recommendation that a buffer be created on the inside of the fence. This parking lot is very tight in terms of the number of parking spaces, and I think we have, and again, I'm sorry that I don't have anything bigger, but the way it is striped, if we started placing objects on the inside of the fence, it's going to take up parking spaces. And right now, we have a lease where we're obligated to lease to the VA 300 spots. So, again, we can put a pencil to it, but that could be a problem if we have to take up parking on the inside of the fence.
Well, then I think it becomes even more imperative to rethink the design of the fence itself.
Is there just a, as you said, you're saying a redesign, but is there
think
examples to be used, or are we going to come back and you're going to say, no, try again, rather than
think you have
this
to-
is something that is,
I think you have to look at something that's less industrial in appearance, and I don't mean anything necessarily with, you know, curly cues and finials on it, but there are a whole host of fencing types that are used for security purposes that are not chain link.
so, in trying to find other examples, we have looked around and, you know, there's a recent example, North Franklin Street, but that is a 6-foot chain link galvanized fence. I've seen on the other side of 81, near Fayette and Foreman Street, there's some other parking areas there that have chain link fence, but they're black, but they're still 6-foot fence and black. So we're, you know, that just trying to, there's not many other precedents in a sense of what you may or may not work when one is a 6-foot galvanized fence already. That just happened a few years ago versus, or maybe the black chain link fence would be much dramatically different in design, but it's still chain link. Is it the color? Is it or is it the material?
I can't speak for my colleagues, but to me, I think chain link is inappropriate in the downtown. I also don't think this is an appropriate setting for us to design the fence. But what I would say is that there are a number of metal fences that have vertical pickets, vertical and horizontal pickets. Some have crossbars, some don't. I mean, there are catalogs full of these things. So I wouldn't say that you should look just at what might be nearby. Certainly that might be a viable option. But again, there are just catalogs of these things. I would suggest perhaps sitting down with staff, including the transportation planner, and together they might be able to give you a family of things to look at, and then the owners can go away and look at those examples and see what they can come up with.
Very good.
But you would entertain 6 foot.
I think you should look at something less than that. So, 4 or 5. 4 is too low, maybe 5 would be better. But one of the concerns that this body has is comprehensive planning concerns. So again, you take an entire city block and you put up a chain link fence and it sends a certain signal, or a 6-foot high fence, it sends a certain signal. So I think there has to be a compromise between providing the level of security they're looking for, but also acknowledging that this is in a downtown that is supposed to be a lively mixed-use area, not an industrial area where there might be material or other things going on the private side of the fence that need to be protected. So I would, again, I think perhaps the best thing to do would be to sit down with our staff, but also the transportation planner who went on at length about many of the same issues, and perhaps get more specific direction, and then go talk to the owners about what they might be willing to consider.
All right, we will do that. Thank you for your time. Would you like the letter from the VA?
We should have that, yeah, please,
To you, to Heather?
to Heather or Jeff.
All right.
Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? If so, come to the podium to provide your comments. No additional speakers for this particular application. Given the discussion that we just had with the applicant, my sense is we should hold this hearing open and await some further dialogue with the applicant and resource people that they have available to them to perhaps modify the project in line with the county planning board comments and the transportation planner comments. However, if my colleagues want to proceed with action on it, we can do that as well. So, okay, then we'll hold the public hearing open and await any further developments in response to the comments received to date. Our next public hearing, please.
Next public hearing is Z 2814M1. This is a planned institutional district plan modification. And this is to modify the allowed uses for Subdistrict 11 to the Syracuse University Planned Institutional District. This is at 700 and 710 to 722 University Avenue. Syracuse University is the owner and applicant, and this is in a planned institutional district.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Jennifer Bybee, Assistant Director for Campus Planning with Syracuse University. And here tonight, as Ms. Lamondola indicated, to propose to amend Subdistrict 11 of the main campus PID. I brought this board. The application does not propose to change the district boundaries or anything about buildings in it. This is merely just for orientation purposes. It's hard to show up without it. So basically, this is the sub-district about which this application is tonight. It's north of Marshall Street, west of University Ave, and south of East Ave. And it's comprised of the Marshall Square Mall building, what was called University College is now called College of Professional Services, Professional Studies, excuse me, and parking. So most simply put, the reason for our application is to add services uses as specifically a use that is allowed. When we applied for the rezoning and it was approved by your body and by the elected officials, the Common Council in 2019, we indicated we were interested in having all of the uses that were currently in this area be approved, including retail, parking lot, academic use, etc. And we had some discussion recently with city zoning staff. There was a proposed tenant that came to the city, and we had thought that the use, it was a barber shop, would be considered retail. City zoning thought it was really more service use. We don't want to relitigate it. We're just simply doing what they proposed, which is city zoning staff said, just let's make this very clear and call it and add services uses so we don't have this ambiguity anymore. And that's the essence of tonight's application.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the applicant?
No.
Okay, thank you. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, come to the podium, please. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the application? If so, come forward to offer your comments. No further speakers. We will declare the hearing closed and entertain a motion for action on it.
approval with a negative declaration.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? It's approved. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Our next hearing, please.
The next public hearing is PS 2201. This is a protected site petition at 736 to 742 James Street, and the petitioner is the Syracuse Landmark Preservation Board, and the property lies within an Office Class B zoning district.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kate Atwater. I'm the preservation planner for the city, and I'm here on behalf of the Landmark Preservation Board this evening. The Landmark Preservation Board is petitioning the Planning Commission to recommend to Common Council that the property at 73642 James Street be designated a local protected site. The property is listed or is included in the city's historic properties list. The owner of the property, St. Joseph's Health Center, has expressed its intention to demolish the property, which triggered the LPB's protected site review process. The board held a public hearing on February the 3rd, 2022. At that time, the board heard public comment and reviewed the documentation regarding the development and history of the office building as well as its current condition. After careful review and consideration, the board determined that the building meets 3 out of the 5 criteria for designation. And those criteria include association with persons or events of historic significance to the city, illustrative of historic growth and development of the city, and embodying distinctive characteristics of a type, period, or method of construction and or representing the work of a master. In its resolution, the board noted that 742 James Street was constructed as part of a wave of post-World War II demolition and new construction along James Street, which was driven by local leaders' desire to replace vacant 19th century mansions along James Street with new office and high-rise apartment buildings. These buildings would complement the nearby urban renewal-driven redevelopment of downtown. This office building, for better or for worse, replaced the Gothic revival style Sedgwick House, which was famously designed by Alexander Jackson Downing in 1843. That gives you a little context of what was happening at the time. So 742 James Street was constructed in 62-63 by Bersani Construction Corporation as a prestige office building. It was quickly leased and then purchased by the local branch of the Detroit-based National Cash Register Corporation. NCR remained in the building until 1993 when it sold it to St. Joe's. So there have only been two owners of the property. Bersani Construction Corporation, which is still in existence today, was involved in the 1960s in multiple local development and redevelopment projects. And they were designing buildings to promote the outstanding potential and exceptional business climate of the Syracuse community. For the design of its latest premier office building, Bersani selected local architectural firm Cole and Capacilli, with whom they collaborated on a number of different development projects, including the Midtown Plaza redevelopment, the Midtown Car Center. On both of those Midtown properties were demolished, and then the James Square, which still exists on James Street. John Cole and Anthony Capacilli, they were both graduates of Syracuse University. They formed their architectural practice in the mid-1950s. However, the firm didn't last very long as John Cole died at an early age in 1962. Nonetheless, the firm did leave a mark. In addition to the work that they did with Bersani, they were also responsible for the designs of Our Lady of Pompeii campus on Ash Street, and the Pirro and Sons Funeral Home on Park Street. John Cole and Anthony Capacilli were among the small number of local architects who designed buildings in the modernist or international style for the Syracuse market during the 60s and early 70s. 742 James Street is an excellent example, excellent local example of international style commercial architecture, exemplified by its pared down rectilinear form with its hovering raised wing, exposed steel construction, and the long glass curtain walls. Capacilli authored an article in Contemporary Design, Steel Design around the time of the completion of the building, in which he enumerated the advantages of exposed steel building technique that he had employed at 742. He described how the exposed steel structural system creates a functional and visually pleasing rhythm of solids and voids that produce a quality of lightness to the structure, how the structural system serves to frame a variety of rich materials, which is the ornament of the age of truth and functionalism. This is language straight out of the modernist playbook. And in fact, Capacilli refers directly, while discussing his project, 742, he's also referring to Mies van der Rohe, Arjo Saarinen, and designs by Skidmore, Owens, and Merrill. So we know where his head was at, or their head was at, while they were designing this property. Although the condition of the property is fair, is only fair, the building retains a high degree of architectural integrity, and it is one of only a small handful of well-designed modernist office buildings in the city. In closing, I'd like to say there is an irony in this designation proposal. The demolition of James Street, James Street mansions and Mansion Row, was and is still seen as a travesty, and was one of the main impetus behind the creation of our local preservation movement. However, we're now 60 years past that time, and there's a growing interest in appreciation as well as scholarship regarding modern or mid-century modern architecture. The Landmark Preservation Board believes this property falls within this context of an important period in the history of Syracuse, and as a building style and type that is worthy of preservation. So with that, I will entertain any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you for the detailed overview. Questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this designation? If so, please come forward. Is there anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the proposal? If so, please come to the podium, provide your name and address and your comments.
What then? Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Shannon Mastro. I'm an associate principal with King & King Architects, 358 West Jefferson Street, Syracuse, New York. Speaking.
Excuse me, please, would you maybe just pull that microphone or the whole base maybe just a little closer?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that's much better. Now we can hear you. Thank you.
Usually my voice is pretty loud without a microphone, so I didn't want it to be too loud. And I'm obviously with King & King Architects, speaking on behalf also of St. Joseph's Health regarding this protected site designation, which we are speaking in opposition of today. As Kate mentioned, we all know the building is built in 1962. It's over 50 years old, which has tripped it being evaluated for protected site. One of the things that the Preservation Board has brought up continuously, which I'll talk about in a moment, is the embodying a specific method of construction from that time period, specifically the wing that juts out over the parking lot. I would argue on a couple of the other points about Colin Capacilli and the persons of historic significance. I think if it was a Mies van der or a Saarinen to what she was mentioning, I would definitely agree, but I in terms of it being a national kind of renowned architect, but I'll kind of stick to the item about the character of the building. We've received feedback from the Preservation Board. We've done our due diligence in looking and evaluating this building. We've gone to great lengths at looking at it, and we do not feel that it carries enough merit just on the one portion alone to be designated a protected site, which I'll go through in a moment. I also wanted to note that beyond the not having a kind of renowned architect from that time period, it also does not carry a SHPO designation currently. As you can see here,
You should be able to remove that microphone and yeah, disengage it, and then you can just take it with you to go around to the front of the...
okay. And this is in the packets that we handed out too. This is the existing building here on the site. Some of the things that we just wanted to know, the existing stormwater management on the site does not meet current code and actually has a lot of issues with it, which has caused the basement of the building to flood and be completely unusable. We are proposing constructing a new building on the site, which would be located over here, adjacent on the other side of the property, shown on this board here. And that would be something that would be addressed in the new design, as well as meeting the city's one-to-one offset requirements.
We have an historic sound system too.
Some other issues with evaluating the current building is the HVAC systems are at their end of life. There's a lot of safety deficiencies within the building, such as it being unsprinklered, stairs that don't meet code, and the layout itself is on a multi kind of level, which is also really inefficient for the use and what we're proposing using it for. We'd like to create kind of more consistent levels in all of these half levels. A couple of the things to talk about specifically, especially about the structure here, which is what everyone is talking about with the exoskeletal structure and having the period of method of construction. It actually kind of provides, it has the most, I think, issues that what we have with the current building. The T shape here is incredibly problematic from a life safety standpoint, because as you can see with the red arrows, you cannot get fire truck access through the site, so that does not. And the building is also not sprinklered currently, so that does not meet code requirements. The proposed design that we would have would put the building all to one side and be able to allow ease of fire truck as well as being a sprinklered building. The existing structure that is on the exterior, there's some photos here. We have had it evaluated by a structural engineer, and there would need to be significant repairs. So the building is not in, it's not in great condition. I mean, obviously it's livable, but it would need extensive repairs to fix. And then the other thing I wanted to point it out is because it has the exoskeletal structure, I know it was stated that it was, very efficient for the time and modern, but buildings aren't built this way anymore because of all of the thermal bridging that is happening from the concrete flooring that is touching the structure. That does not meet energy code today. There is no way to meet that unless we were wrapping the entire thing in insulation. So that would either completely change the character of the building, or we would have to kind of keep it like that and it would still not meet energy code and continues to be efficient. And that's kind of just talking about this T shape here. We did take feedback from the Landmark Preservation Board, and we conducted a feasibility study looking at all of these items, looking at trying to fit the program that St. Joseph's currently has there, which is behavioral health services, and we just cannot justify doing that. St. Joseph's has been here since the early 90s. They provided the behavioral health services. They want to continue to have a presence in the neighborhood, which I think is wonderful with the services that they're providing, and that is why, again, based on kind of all of these facts, we don't feel that it merits a protected site designation. And I know we're not here to talk about the new building, but we just wanted to show it in context as we would be addressing all the things that we are discussing and provide something that still provides these services but fits within the context of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Are the other members of your team going to speak as well, or they're there if needed?
We're just here for support, I guess.
Okay, good. Questions for the applicant and team?
Not so much a question, but more of a comment that typically in historic preservation condition, much of what you just outlined really doesn't come into play to determine if a property is historically significant. Also under local preservation law, but also under the state and federal preservation laws, local significance is perfectly fine to list a property as significant. So the fact that Mies did not design this is neither here nor there. If Cole and Capacilli are considered significant in our local history, that would be enough, and it seems that the board made that case. In terms of style, it is a good example of international style, again, condition aside. So in terms of the narrow focus of what this body is supposed to be considering today, the Landmark Preservation Board, in a sense, made their case. What happens after this, in terms of your proposal, is sort of like the next step in the next issue. But it's difficult to see how it would not be considered historically significant based on the material in front of us. So I guess I would say the thing to do is maybe consider it, is it a linear process? This is the first step. What happens after ends up being something else we might end up having to talk about in the future. But looking at what the board laid out, they seem to have made the case based on what the preservation ordinance requires. So that's all I have.
I would just say, Nadine Bell.
You juice the mic, please, thanks.
Absolutely. Nadine Bell, I'm an attorney with Costello, Cooney, and Farron. We absolutely appreciate what you're saying, but to the point that this is a process, we did feel it was appropriate and necessary just to make this commission aware of some of those issues. We understand the limitations, and to the extent we could take a bite at the apple and try to make an argument that it was not worthy of that designation, we were certainly going to appear before you and do so. But we appreciate that and the narrow confines that we are presented with, but we just wanted to continue the record of the very many issues that this building presents for St. Joseph's. Thank you.
Comments in relation to this presentation? Okay, thank you. Are there other individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come to the podium, provide your name and address and your comments. I think we have no additional speakers for this proposal, but as I indicated at the outset, where comments are made in opposition, the applicant has the opportunity to return to the podium and address comments made in opposition. That opportunity is yours if you choose to avail yourself of it.
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
So with no additional speakers, we can declare this hearing closed, excuse me, and entertain a motion for action on the proposed designation.
I'm willing to make the motion. Is the terminology that we're approving the petition?
You were either recommending or not recommending
It's recommended to the council.
the petition for designation of a protected site by the Landmark Preservation Board.
Then I move that, I move that we recommend to the council protected site status for this property.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? So the commission has approved recommending to the council protected site designation for this site, and as mentioned a few moments ago, there's another step in the process. This action tonight comes as a recommendation that goes to the Common Council. Next, and I think last public hearing, please.
The last public hearing is SR 2102M1. This is a site plan review modification for exterior renovations and site alterations. Actually, I think this is not for site alterations. This is just to install signage at 3114 and 3116 to 3130 James Street. 3120 James Street LLC is the owner and applicant, and it's business class A zoning district and also in the James Street overlay. And I just want to, it is in your staff report, but call to the commission's attention, when the site plan review was reviewed, the approval included one waiver for the type of sign, which was the ground sign. At that time, the applicant did not have the specific dimensions, height, illumination at that time, and this is what they're bringing forward today.
Please
Hi,
go ahead.
Louis Morocco here, owner of the property at, commonly known as 3120 James Street. The tax IDs are actually 3114 and then 3116 through 30. We, as stated, we were here this past summer for which we were approved on, I think it was 9 deviations that were an issue, not an issue, but 9 deviations from current code regulations, being that we were an existing structure that was already there. On all of our submissions and renderings, we did show signage on the building identifying that it was Family Dollar. However, at that time, I didn't have anything concrete from Family Dollar, who uses a company out of Virginia for their signage. So at that time, I just didn't have any dimensions to show you. Right now, the way that, and I brought this, I pulled this off.
Yes, yes, please.
Just don't want to break anything. Oh. Off to a great start.
No
with that.
sign for you
Good,
if you
good.
broke it.
So we've got here, I think the building sign is 3 feet, approximately just under 3 feet in height, and then it goes about 24 feet in width. And we did our absolute best. This will be a little bit difficult to do, but to show, you know, this is the would be the pylon sign. And what I did was I just, you know, we had this on the site plan from the beginning. I showed what the building, I'm gonna put this back down. I'm just gonna show you. So this is the building in its current state today. So this is the building in its current state, that's literally today. Where they're planning to open this store on April 7th. So what the ground sign obviously allows for is, to identify the business in both directions. And then here is the, former use of the property being Rite Aid, using a much larger, at least in height, sign here, and obviously utilization of the Rite Aid pylon so that we can identify the business in both directions. And that's really what we're here for tonight, is just to, I think this is a reasonable request to be utilizing that sign, having the one on the front. We're not looking for a sign on the Homecroft side, which was asked and requested of Family Dollar, but we told them that would probably be a no-go, and that's where we are here tonight.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant regarding this proposal?
A question for staff. So we approved all this, but we're looking at details? Is that the issue?
No, the only signage that was approved was the type of sign, which was the ground sign. They made the argument that it was existing and
Okay.
difficult to remove. At the time, though, the details were not, they were shown on the renderings, but no details of the
Okay.
specifics. So that's what's coming before you now. So ground signs are not allowed in the James Street overlay, but you did waive that and saw particular difficulties with the proposal.
So now it's really the design of the ground sign more than the fact that there is a ground sign. We've already said they can have a ground sign. We're just
Correct.
looking at the
It's
design.
the details of the ground sign and the wall sign as well, because you can
Okay.
have one sign and it can't be a wall sign. I mean, sorry, it can't be a ground sign, but you let them have that, so.
Okay.
Yes, comprehensively, 2 signs, 1 ground, 1 wall. There you go.
Okay.
And so the way that the building sign is shown, that, to my knowledge and conversations I've had with Jeff, that's, you know, fine in terms of the square footage. But obviously, we have this ground sign that was previously approved, and just being candid and upfront with all of you, I mean, this was part of our, at the time we were in here, I didn't even have the lease sign for Family Dollar. We took a gamble, we bought this building, and this was part of that requirement for the lease, was to maintain this ground sign, and that's why we made such a big deal about it in the beginning in our approvals back in July, because I didn't want this to come as a surprise when we got here finally today. And, you know, we've done some pretty extensive renovations to the building itself, paving, landscaping, all sorts of things that we added to, I think, really make it, you know, nice looking building after it sat vacant for, I think, 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 now, I don't even know, so.
Thank you. Additional questions, either of staff or the applicant? Okay, all right, thank you. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? Counselor, please.
Thank you, Commissioner, for allowing me to say a few words. Just want to verify Mr. Morocco's statements and say that they've really done a lot of improvement to the property. You know, I've gotten a lot of feedback from other business owners and other people who live in the area that are very happy and impressed with the way they've really stepped it up with the landscaping and the improvements to the property. So I would hate for something like this to get in the way. So I just want to speak in support of the 2 signs and say that, you know, it is a repurposing of a sign that was there previously, and you know, just want to voice my support for the variance, and I really hope that they can get this project, because as he noted, it was vacant for many years, and we're very happy to have him improving the property and have it back to active life in the James Street corridor. As you know, we're always trying to get to that tipping point of no vacancies and getting more active shops in there, and it's really trending in a good direction. So I think this would be a great addition. We could just get it sealed up and move forward with it. So I'd just encourage your support. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other individuals who might want to speak in favor of this application, please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward, provide your name and your comments. We don't seem to have any additional speakers, so we're at a place where we can close this public hearing and entertain a motion for action on this.
Approval with a declaration.
Second.
Discussion? All in,
The repurposing of a legacy pharmacy building into into retail, we all commend you for that. That you're
Appreciate
using
it.
the building.
Thank you.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The sign is approved. Good luck with the opening.
Thank you. What would be the next, do I have to contact anybody, anyone at?
Apply for a building permit?
Because we've already got all the,
A sign permit, actually.
just for the sign permit itself. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
We indicated at the outset of the commission meeting this evening that we would hold the very first public hearing open. We've done that, and I'll make yet another call. I think I know the outcome. If the applicant is here to present the project, or if anyone wishes to speak in favor of the project, or anyone wishes to speak in opposition to the project, come forward, but not all at once, and provide your name and address in either the presentation or your comments. So no one is moving toward the podium, so we will continue to hold this hearing open and hope that the applicant can join us at the next commission meeting. So with that, is there any additional business to come before the commission tonight, other than the authorizations for April 4th?
No.
Okay, and in that case, is there a motion to authorize the public hearings for April 4th, 5 new ones, plus a carryover from this evening?
Before we do that, can we just make sure for the North Salina Street, we have Landmark Preservation Board comments
Yes, ma'am.
for the next time?
Okay.
So with that, I would move approval of the authorization for the next meeting.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay, and abstentions. Those changes are authorized. And is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Abstentions. We are adjourned until April the 4th.
Thank you.